Welcome to the Folk School on Willow Creek, featuring University Distinguished Professor Tom Easern, singing and telling stories from the Salon on Willow Creek.
I need a bed for the night, boys, and my horses need hay. I've been riding that grove line on the hot-dish highway. Sing a song of Kansas, princess of the West, fairest of many sisters, fairest one and best. Heart of a great nation, brilliant central star, scene of all observers, hailed from near and far. Stately in proportions, giantess in size, noted for her climate, famous for her skies, marvelous in progress, wonderful in deeds. Other states may follow, Kansas always leads. Sing the song of Kansas, land of fruit and grain, sound aloud her praises, thunder the refrain. Sing a song of Kansas, the princess of the West, one of many sisters, fairest one and best. Well, there's one you haven't heard unless you're around in about 19 or 20 or so, or before that, because it sort of died out. Here in a recent Plains Folk essay for the newspapers of Kansas, I put it this way. For every great ballad of the plains captured by the song catchers of a century ago, there is another, maybe 10, that lived and died and were forgotten. Perhaps they somehow just escaped notice by the scribblers and jotters fanning out to document a vanishing America. Or perhaps these songs fancied by our forebears and then forgotten were creatures of their times that had their day and then were retired from circulation. I think Sing a Song of Kansas, also known as Princess of the West, was one of those. The story begins, I think, in late 1888, when a party unknown contributed this stanza to the Meade Center Globe. Sing a song of Kansas, cribs all full of corn, Meade's broad fertile prairies with green wheat adorned. When the harvest cometh, the grangers all do sing, of all the Kansas counties, Meade is surely king. It was promotional doggerel, really, obviously meant to be sung to the tune of Sing a Song of Sixpence. Perhaps it was a slow news week, but scores of country town newspapers reproduced the Meade County stanza. Except for the Chase Record, which insisted on changing the locale to Rice County. And then the song was gone, but not forgotten, as a year later there appears in the Emporia Republican, a retread of the song generalized to speak for the entire state. Sing a song of Kansas, princess of the West, one of many sisters, fairest one and best. Heart of a great nation, bright central star, scene of all observers, hailed from near and far. And so on. An unabashed paean to the Sunflower State. Once again, the newsrooms papered the country with the stanzas. This time, they stuck in an institutional way. Princess of the West was ritually sung or recited at Kansas Day celebrations and school programs across the land, right down to the 1920s. During the early heyday of the song, people speculated who wrote the text that had appeared in the Republican. Through a tricky chain of evidence, I can tell you who. It was Charles Vernon Eskridge, the editor himself. A runaway at age 13, for a while, a cabin boy on Mississippi River steamboats, Eskridge came to Kansas Territory and got on the right side of history, working for the Herald of Freedom in Lawrence. Soon he shifted to the paper town of Emporia, took it over, and built it up. Launching into politics, Eskridge led the fight to locate the University of Kansas in Emporia. Losing that fight and getting awarded the normal school instead, his famous response was, "What the hell is a normal school?" Well, Eskridge was a hopeless grafter who mixed up his political adventures with his banking and real estate enterprises. On the other hand, he was entertaining and popular. One acquaintance said he had an apparently inexhaustible fund of anecdotes. So I kind of like him. Eskridge went bankrupt, got cancer of the liver, and used a revolver to end his life in July of 1900. His song survived him, and I hereby resolve to sing it on Kansas Day every year hereafter, or until Dr. Kelly gets fed up with it. How's that? Sing a song of Kansas. That's a new one on me, and probably is on you. Oh, also. No, don't need it. Thanks. I don't know. You got anything new to tell? Anything else new to tell us from NDSU Press this week, Dr. K?
I do. Usually I talk about publications, but tonight I'm going to mention some partnerships.
No?
Yeah, so we've got 3 major partnerships going on right now. One that is with the state of North Dakota, working with the Department of Public Instruction, and they're working to produce some updated and revised books about the different tribes that are in North Dakota. So that's great fun. I'm going to go visit with them Monday, this coming Monday. And while I'm there, I get to take in some of the poetry out loud competitions. So I'm pretty excited to go see that too. We also have a national partnership that is with the Society for Ethnohistory. They're having their conference here in September. And so we're partnering up with some of the program development and getting things prepared for that conference. And then the third one is local and international. So one of our wetlands professors here has been working with some people in Mexico. They've had a publication in a university press there, and we are partnering to have that a dual publication that is in Spanish and English here. So those are some of the other things we do besides making books.
When you said you were taking in some partners, I was hoping you'd have somebody who'd help make the farm mortgage here. Yeah, it's kind of big.
There's no money changing hands.
Shucks. It's one of your typical deals, it sounds like. Well, you're doing good work and helping other people out with their programs. You haven't seen Bill Caraher on the chat line there, have you?
No, not tonight.
So he wanted to hear something by Clell, Gannon, and I've got it here now. So here we're gonna launch it. And I've just been down this week to Vermilion at the University of South Dakota with a history conference there. I may say a word about that later on. And of course had supper with Molly Rosem there, who's the author of this book a couple years back, Grasslands Grown, off University of Nebraska Press. Oh, nope, not NDSU Press, unfortunately, but it's a good book anyway, right? Creating Place on the U.S. Northern Plains and the Canadian Prairies. Pretty academic title, but it's a pretty down-to-earth book about, well, not the immigrant generation, but the generation right after that. The generation that became all your grassland ecologists and your poets and your novelists and essayists and wildlife biologists and all manner of people who who grew up with the land and then were very much vested in it. And in these parts, in North Dakota, I think the true poetic voice of that generation of the settler society that grew up on the land has to be Clell Gannon of Bismarck. I think last week we were talking about James Foley, who's a contemporary of Gannon and also from Bismarck. But you recall he lit out for California. Foley stuck, even during the hard times of the Great Depression. And even, oh Lord, he did have some tough times. I think he had diphtheria when he was at the Art Institute of Chicago as a young man. And I think it was during the years of the Great Depression. He ended up spending 7 years at the San Haven Asylum up there at Turtle Mountain for tuberculosis cases. This is a guy you'd think might be beaten down by such developments. But, you know, he did not dim. It was during that time of very much the time of troubles in midlife and late life that he built the Can, that remarkable rubble-stone residence of his in northwest Bismarck. Somebody else who knows a fair bit about Clell and Gannon is Aaron Barth, whose dissertation had a chapter that had quite a bit about Gannon in it. He did those murals in the entryway, in the foyer of the Burleigh County Courthouse, and other notable works of public art. I don't know, Bismarck had sort of a community of resident Renaissance men and women there. It had a true efflorescence, I think. Unfortunately, now it has the legislature. Oh, okay, it did then. It did then too. And if you think the legislature is up to shenanigans these days, you should read some of the correspondence from the 19th century. There was some stuff going on that perhaps the family ought not to know about back home in those days. Yeah. Well, Clell Gannon, did you know I knew Clell Gannon's son, Greer?
So did I.
You did too. Yeah. And Greer, Clell Gannon wrote... published a couple books of poetry, and then the third one I think was posthumous. Ever and Always I Shall Love the Land, and the family brought it through. And then Clell, who was something of a Renaissance man himself, wrote the preface for this. And I'll read an excerpt or two here for a bit of an appreciation of Clell Gannon. Who was Clell Gannon? Well, let us leave for a moment the nature of his essence and speak of the process, the physiology, the means which he employed to create that essence. He was then, first and last, an artist. He was an observer of life, one who participated fully in the common life, and yet whose greatest participation was to be found in the quietness and meditation through which he gave expression to a vision of truth and beauty, which has enhanced the lives of countless others. More specifically, he was a painter. His formal education ended with 2 years at the Art Institute of Chicago. I mentioned he had diphtheria and other sickness. No wonder he was alive after suffering those spells in Chicago. He painted mostly in oils, mostly landscapes of his beloved Dakota. In the silent beauty of the created universe, he, like Wordsworth, experienced a mystical rapture and a mystical union with the divine power which gives unity to all things. He was a religious man. Architect, gardener, printer, book collector, music lover, photographer, traveler, outdoorsman, naturalist. I'm skipping to another remarkable passage here. Clell Gannon was like the pasque flower, blooming on the brown prairies of home. It is God's own mystery how the country boy could come from the simple life of Dakota and ponder the beauties of the Renaissance in the panels and canvases of the Art Institute in Chicago, or to find excitement in the great operas which played in that city, and then return home once again to find himself forever in the simplicity of sun and rain, butte and sky, rabbit and coyote. Unlike most Dakotans, he never ceased to live in the great world of human history. But unlike most sophisticates, he loved the little world outside his door, and he saw reflected in it the majesty of the universe and the hand of God. That's our Clell Gannon of Bismarck, North Dakota. I mentioned that James Foley, who was the better known poet in their time, left the state. Clell Gannon stayed. And I think this particular set of stanzas from his book, Songs of the Bunchgrass Acres, will give you an idea how that came about. Of course, I think another reason he stuck was because his dear wife, June, liked Bismarck. Let's see. That key will work. This is the Law of Dakota. There's a law how it rains in Dakota. It's not on the books of the state, but it rules every native-born offspring that ever was born on a date. And it rules every immigrant settler who ever has lived in the West. For it won't let him go from the Westland. If it does, it will not let him rest. It's law of the land and the people, the law of the simple and great. And it rules nearly all of the people, 9 times out of 10 is the rate. For it rules the rich man and the beggar, the foolish one, yea, and the wise. It's as broad as the wind-beaten prairies, as big as the limitless skies. For the law holds each son of Dakota who wanders away from the sod, though he be native-born or adopted, disciple of Satan or God, must return to the land of his people or never be happy again. Though we travel the vampire world over for 10 million miles, twice 10. You may hate the law, perhaps good reason, ignore it or curse it like sin. But like sin, when it gets you, it keeps you, and it counts you as one of its kin. It's the curse of the buttes and the prairies, the curse of the sky and the sod. It's the law of the infinite spaces and the revelation of God. You swear that you're done with Dakota, have sown your last bushel of wheat, have packed your last egg to the market, have bought brand new shoes for your feet. You are going to leave certain by winter, bid farewell to cousin and aunt. You and Winter are still in Dakota, each wants to get out, but it can't. You may have been born in Havana, in Singapore, Sitka, or Rome, but once you have lived in Dakota, once you have known it as home, it has gripped you a slave to its worship, a slave, yes, a lover, a friend. For the long, long trail leads to Dakota, and every known trail has an end. That's Clell Gannon, the Law of Dakota. If you haven't picked up the theme yet, well, you know, it was printed on the order of service. You should take a look at it. But I think it's called something like Goshen on the Plains. People who perceive themselves in a promised land here. Now, I don't know. It may be a frame of mind. Certainly Charles Eskridge was painting a land of Goshen there in Kansas. But he had a vested interest, you know. He was doing promotional literature. There's no doubt about it. I don't. When people dismiss the propagandists of the boomer days, sometimes I think they underestimate the capacity of people to believe in the country that they are promoting. And I suspect Estridge did. But he did give way to despair and probably was avoiding the wages of sin at the time of his death. And now we've got Clell Gannon. This is a guy who had every reason to have been beaten down, perhaps even embittered, but he was not. And Gannon we have to respect, I think, for his contributions. Was he the greatest artist ever to take up a brush on the Northern Plains? Well, certainly not. But he was a sensitive one. Was he the perfect poet of his times? He was not, but he was a sincere one. And he was a great member of the community in which he lived. I'll take him. I'll take him for a model any day. Well, anybody else listening in for Clell Gannon tonight here?
Well, actually, Ben Kabushta, you might not be surprised to hear this, has done some research on this very business of the law of Dakota.
Yes.
He found it in a 1930 report from the Four-Leaf Clover Study Club.
Yeah.
And there was a reading, a paper called The Nationalities of North Dakota. And the woman also read Clell Gannon's The Law of Dakota at that time. So you'll probably want to look that up. He's citing the Bismarck Tribune for that from 1930.
Well, Clell was one of those who was sticking during the hard times there. And perhaps they were looking for a little inspiration, I suppose.
I was surprised to hear Sitka pop up in the name of...
You wonder, how does he pick those out? Havana, Singapore, Sitka, and Rome. And, let's just pick them out from the... Maybe he had a globe in his study, and he spun it. Oh. Well, it's good to be back here in this long tonight. I've been traveling this week myself with one of my outstanding students. And he was giving a paper down at a conference at the University of South Dakota. And he did a wonderful job again. But it was a conference of history students presenting their original research. And I always find these kind of edifying. You know, that the past may be in good hands with these young people. I joke with them in class. I teach the methods course here, which means it's like a full contact scrimmage, right? We're going round and around with drafts of 22 papers being, 22 research papers coming in multiple drafts. And so, we may be sick of one another before long here, but it is the chance for certainly some intergenerational contact and maybe even a bit of understanding of how we think respectively. But pleasure working with Levi this week as he was presenting his research. He's just become this master historian. And, the country needs good history. We've always been thin on the land. We need to fan out and start covering it with historical papers. Somewhere on the timeline above this video running on the Plains Folk Facebook page, you'll see a link to the Great American Folk School, which is Tom Brusso's show, sort of a syndicated public radio operation. And we were sitting right here together earlier this week. He had a letter from a woman. He had sung the song Red River Valley on the Great American Folk School, Great American Folk Show. This is the folk school. This is the folk show, because I'm an old professor and he's an actual musician. So there's the difference. But he had sung it, and somebody had written in, do you know the background of that song, just where it came from? He said, no, but I know somebody who did. And so he came over here and we did some recording. And that'll be on tomorrow. That might be on in different places and different times, but if you follow that link, you'll get to Tom's pages about the Great American Folk Show, which I recommend. It's an eclectic weekly show for sure, with a lot of talent recruited for it. And then me stuck in there in the lineup to bring up the age profile, I think. And singing Red River Valley. And so probably MJ should tune that one in then. He always wants to hear Red River Valley again. I got another featured ballad to take up here tonight. And it's one that's been flitting in and out of the folk school since almost the beginning of it back in 2020. There was this song called The Lane County Bachelor. It's a little bit mysterious. The folklorist Jan Brunvon has really done a nice essay about the origins of the song The Lane County Bachelor, but he never quite pinned it down. And he took the word of some people there locally in Lane County, Kansas, as to, oh yeah, there was this guy Frank Baker, and he wrote that song. He was a homesteader there. And he was a neighbor of a fellow named Samuel Smith, and then Baker left, and he left the song behind. And I was always a little dubious of those stories, of the origins of the Lane County Bachelor, sometimes known as the Homesteader's Lament. The song took off, and I've got texts of it from Colorado, from Montana, from Nebraska. The farthest north one, I do have a text of what originated as the Lane County Bachelor. I have a text of it from Emmons County, North Dakota. I was just looking to her. What do they call it there? Yeah, they call it the Homesteader's Lament there. And it was the Reichman family there who did a localization of this song from western Kansas and then planted it. Hurrah for Emmons County, the land of the free, the home of the grasshopper, bedbug, and flea. Well, I'm intimating that the song was born there in Kansas, and I cannot confirm that there really was a Frank Baker that wrote this song. There were some Frank Bakers in Lane County, but none of them lived where they said that the guy who wrote the song lived. They're not on that section. They're not even in the same township, and so I'm a little dubious of that. However, I've got a piece of evidence that I think does confirm the song comes from Lane County, Kansas, and it was in 1890 or earlier. That much I will say now, because I've got the program for Kansas Day exercises held at the Methodist Episcopal Church on January 29th, 1890. And right there in the middle of the program is a recitation by someone named Anna Fast, who I suspect is, a school-age kid. Anna Fast, a recitation entitled Frank Baker in Kansas. Now that really doesn't confirm there really was a Frank Baker. It's possible somebody made up these stanzas and invented Frank Baker, and now she's reciting the stanzas and just repeating the name. But that does say to me that song was in Lane County, Kansas in 1890, and no one else has ever been able to quite confirm that until, hey, tonight. How's that? Well, the better known localization of the song elsewhere is the one that actually became the more commonly known song, but better known than the Lane County Bachelor, until at least fairly recently. It traveled to Greer County, Oklahoma. And it was collected there by the pioneer songcatcher John Lomax of Texas. He crossed the Red River and he got acquainted with a fellow named Tom Hite, who sang a bunch of ballads for him. I think they got together at a hotel in Oklahoma City. So how they happened to meet there, I don't know. But Lomax met this guy, Hite. Now, this Hite from Greer County, Oklahoma, he had a post office there named after him for a few years. He was a successful homesteader. I think he also was a little bit of a BSer. And he was putting some stuff over on the professor who was collecting ballads there. And he sang him a song called Greer County, and Lomax puts it in his book. Tom Hite is my name, an old bachelor I am. You'll find me out west in the county of fame. You'll find me out west on an elegant plain, starving to death on my government claim. Hurrah for Greer County, and so on. So Hite claimed, now he didn't say that he localized the song He said he wrote the song, but clearly he didn't write it. He perhaps localized it, and perhaps he did, except he's got a neighbor there in Greer County. It was around 1910 that Lomax got this song and others from him. He's got a neighbor there named Lon Thomas. Now, I will say this guy, Height, he was a little bit windy. He ran into some difficulties, lost his farm, got his property sold out from under him. He disappears from the screen of regional history there after that. He has his day of fame with the great Professor Lomax there, I suppose. But he had this other neighbor, a guy named Lon Thomas, that his neighbors, when they weren't in Oklahoma City, like Height was singing to the professor, his neighbors said Lon Thomas was the one who composed the Greer County stanzas. Now, the problem with Lon Thomas is he's an imperfect vessel. I've got various newspaper reports and even here a Court of Appeals verdict in which they're throwing him back in jail. He's brought up on charges several times. He has a tendency to steal pigs at first, always with a different partner. Here's Lon Thomas brought up. He's got 2 pigs have gone missing, and they find him in his pen. And oh well, he gets a slap on the wrist. And then he took to stealing bales of cotton there down near the Red River. It's cotton country, you see, and that got him sent to the pen for a while. But Lon Thomas, I can tell you, he composed a set of stanzas by 1906, so he predates this guy Height. And his neighbors referred to him in print as their Greer County Bachelor. This is your folk composer. Is he a criminal also? Yeah, but I think that just makes the stories better, don't you? We need some black sheep in the folk song family. So I'm about to sing to you the Greer County Bachelor. This is the authentic version. This is not the sanitized Carl Sandburg version that he sang on stage all over the country and the ladies swooned because it was Carl Sandburg, nor is it what Professor Lomax would go around in his lectures at University of Kansas, for instance, and other places all over the plains and coast to coast saying, as the Greer County Bachelor, this is the real deal by Mr. Thomas. I'd like to say it's a jailhouse ballad, but apparently he composed it before they threw him in the clink. I am an old bachelor, Lon Thomas by name. You'll find me out west on an elegant claim. You'll find me out west in a country of fame. I'm starving to death on a government claim. Then a roar for Greer County, the land of the free, the home of the grasshopper, bedbug, and flea. We sing of its praises, we tell of its fame, but we're starving to death on a government claim. My house, it is built of a natural sod. The walls are erected according to Hod. The roof has no pitch but is level and plain, and it always gets wet if it happens to rain. Then a roar for Greer County, the land of the free, the home of the grasshopper, bedbug, and flea. We sing of its praises, we tell of its fame, well, starving to death on a government claim. How happy I am when I crawled into bed and a rattlesnake rattles a tune in my head, and a gay little centipede, stranger to fear, crawls over my pillow and into my ear. Then I roar for Greer County, where the blizzards arise, and the sun never sinks or the flea never dies. The winds never cease, but they always remain, till they blow the light out on the government claim. Now all you claim holders, I hope you will stay and chew your hardtack till you're toothless and gray. But as for me, I'll no longer remain to starve like a dog on a government claim. Farewell to Greer County, farewell to the west. I'm going back I'm going back to Texas to marry a wife and quit this hard living the rest of my life. And there's the real deal from Greer County. Well, we're about to close this thing out with some final words. Some of you may notice this showing up in the folk school now and then. As I consult it for one detail or another, Dr. Kelly started seeing me carry it around and sometimes pop it out and read to her a bit.
Not tired of that yet.
Yeah, it is if it's 6 in the morning. You're a little tired of it already then. Yeah. So I'm going to have that for reference here. You know, this episode, you see, has had mixed reviews about life on the plains, hasn't it? And even where they are categorical, oh, it's a wonderful country, you know, it's the princess of the West, and there are mixed motives behind that. And we don't know what the motives of our jailbird balladeer in Greer County were. But certainly, the opinions about the plains are various. But some of us, like Clell Gannon, keep sticking. And maybe continue to look for those elements of crystallizing community that make it a rewarding place to live. All during the fall months here, during the Willow Creek Folk School, you're talking about the fall suppers. Oh, what a great ritual those are. People get down in the church basements, the community halls, and they serve one another. It's just downright New Testament. In the spring, there's an echo of that. It's come Lenten season. It's the fish fry season, which is a big deal here. It is all over the United States, but I've noticed it's a particularly a big deal here on the northern plains and in the northern Midwest. The fish fry season. You'll find on the timeline there, up above this video, a note from the Windermere. That's Windermere, North Dakota. That's south of here, where we are here in Cass County, but not that far. The Windermere FFA alumni, that's Future Farmers of America. And so then they must be farmers, right? They're FFA alumni. They have an all-you-can-eat fish fry coming in. We should take that in, except most of these fish fries you see are on Friday nights when we're doing the folk school. 18th of March in Windermere Community Center, 5 to 8 p.m. At 8 p.m., there will be a drawing for a Ranger XP 1000 quad vehicle, right? They're advertising fresh lake perch, which means somebody's been drilling holes in the sloughs down there. They'd have some pretty good perch sloughs in that vicinity. Cheesy hash browns, slaw rolls, $15 for adults, and various prices for kids and such. Fish fries, of course, are going on all over the prairies. I see the notice from Luray. If we got on Highway 281 and zipped down there, well, we'd have to start pretty early to get there for a Friday evening gig there at the American Legion on the 15th of March. Serving at 5 p.m., adults $20, so fish are a little more high-priced in Kansas, maybe because there's not such good ice fishing there. Community Church of Luray is sponsoring that fish fry. I would say keep a lookout. This is a good way to spend a Friday evening. Go out there, fill your plate, maybe fill it again, sit down with your neighbors, see what kind of stories you can maybe collect. Because, well, let me explain. Well, I wish I had $1 for every section road I followed through the patchwork quilt our Lord Creator sowed. Through the gravel and the gumbo, I do not regret a mile, because when you leave the blacktop, then you're traveling in style. I wish I could remember every story I have heard. I would build a great library encoding every word. From a pulpit or a bar stool, your tale is worth my time. If I don't believe your stories, why would you believe mine? Now if I should write a ballad just to tell who we are, you would have to name each character and every prairie star. I would not leave out the blemishes, I'd sing it warts and all. If a ballad be not honest, then it is no song at all. Where the deer and the antelope play, we'll sing the song of Kansas. She's the princess of the West. She's one of many sisters, but she's the fairest one and best. Sing the song of Kansas, land of fruit and grain. Sing aloud her praises, thunder the refrain. There's a law how it rains in Dakota. It's not on the books of the state. It's as broad as the wind-beaten prairie, as big as the limitless skies. There's a law how it rains in Dakota. It's not on the books of the state. Broad as the wind-beaten prairies, big as the limitless skies. And a raw for Greer County, land of the free. She's the home of the grasshopper, big bug and flea. Find me out west in this county of fame, starving to death, starving to death, starving to death on a government land. Well, I wish I could remember every story I have heard. I would build a great library encoding every word, from a pulpit or a bar stool. Your talk is worth my time. If I don't believe your stories, why should you believe mine? Where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and skies are not cloudy, are not cloudy all the day. No, the skies be all day. Hey, Dr. Kelly.
We now conclude today's edition of the Folk School on Willow Creek. We invite you to join us again next Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time for more songs and stories.